welcome here to the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo and Dino Ferrari. That's right. Welcome to our exclusive race reaction, obviously from our home Grand Prix, the round 7 of the 2025 FIA Formula One World Championship, as we are here in Jan Smalik's champion and Ferrari's biggest fans, home sweet home, and over here we will tell you everything about this spectacular, again very pulsating Imola the Ferrari Grand Prix, which just took place, and which has came up with some really good racing situations. It was a really exciting Grand Prix to watch, and that it could have definitely ended in the Ferrari victory based on the race pace that we had. Definitely, of course, not based on the qualifying pace. So over here in this exclusive reaction, as you guys know, we will tell you everything about the race from the Ferrari's perspective, what we could have done better, what I thought, we absolutely nailed, and then we will take a look at the actual result of the race on this red Scuderia Ferrari Red Regina IMA, and we will then also take a look at the drivers in the Constructors' Championship, because we did finally, achieve some of the goals that we obviously set before the race, which I'm really happy about, even though it looked a little bit bleak, obviously, after the botched qualifying. We will take a look at it and see again where everything went wrong. So as you could see, obviously from the qualifying, the teething issues, especially with that ultimate one lap pace, were still over there. We qualified only 11th and 12th, and that was obviously going to be a big problem. The worst qualifying result for a Grand Prix of the year at our home Grand Prix. The Grand Prix named after the founder and the son, obviously the International Autodromo named after Enzo and Dino Ferrari. So lots of disappointment as we as Tifosi came here. Obviously when I was racing, Imola, especially in the F124, I've done a fantastic job on it twice because the game didn't save. So I did definitely expect Ferrari to be stronger, and it was a shocker, but I did know from the qualifying pace that it wasn't a big deal, 4 or 5 tenths, and if we just improve on that Q2 qualifying time just a little bit, we would have been into the top 10, and that was probably the key to the victory. Well, definitely it was the key to the victory, because on the account of it, when we then finished 4th and 6th, actually could have easily been 4th and 5th if Albon wouldn't get lucky with especially the safety car. You could see that if we had qualified 4th and 5th, I thought we had the ultimate pace to challenge the McLarens, to challenge the Red Bulls. Just thought about how unlucky, for example, Lewis Hamilton was to run out of the laps, as he was challenging Piastri for the final podium place. So definitely some positives to take, but it will be very interesting because this is again the first triple header, the first race, of the second triple header of the 2025 Formula One season. So it will be interesting what then happens in Monaco in that second round of the triple header, because that's a special GP that we obviously won, kind of dominated last year. And then from Spain there are new technical directives, more upgrades coming, especially for Scuderia Ferrari. So this could be maybe the last time we are so poor in qualifying and don't have to go through the field, which proved to be a little bit difficult, as obviously the cars line up on a beautiful day in that Emilia-Romagna region. Obviously what used to be the San Marino Grand Prix, which is now the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, which should be the Imola Grand Prix, aka the Ferrari Grand Prix, obviously located just a few kilometers from our home in Maranello. A beautiful sunny day. It was really great to see. If this is the last Imola Grand Prix, it couldn't have had a better weather. Beautiful blue sky, hardly any clouds, which also meant that the weather was not going to play the role, right? And people were a little bit concerned, because we've seen, for example, what happened maybe in the 2022 race, right, with the difficulty of the overtaking, but that actually wasn't the issue, right? I didn't definitely feel it. When I was racing here in Imola twice, I felt the overtaking was relatively good. There were some overtaking opportunities. So as the cars line up, and as the five lights went off, we were in for a very exciting, thrilling race. And it proved to be, we got a decent start. So Leclerc improved from 11th to 10th. Hamilton fell down 1 place. So pretty much as we were, the race was kind of decided in the first corner as far as the victory then goes, because Verstappen overtook Piastri on the outside, heading obviously into the San into that Tamburello chicane. And that was a bit of a surprise that Piastri did let Verstappen go. Obviously, he was chasing the 4th win in a row. Verstappen, his 4th win in a row at Imola. I would obviously have something to say if the Ferrari's fastest ever was in the cockpit, right? And yeah, then for us, we really settled in quite well into the race. But you can see the problem at the beginning was obviously that there was a DRS train which formed behind third place George Russell. Norris had quite a lot of trouble obviously overtaking him. And you could see that everybody was pretty much behind, and also Verstappen and Piastri were not unable to pull away. So actually that is really good. I mean, imagine if Russell was, for example, first, you would have the DRS train all the way from the first place. So that would be very exciting. That's kind of like how the F1 should be. But it also meant it gave us really good possibility to win the race, right? Leclerc on the mediums. Hamilton was on the hard tires. So for Hamilton, he knew if he just stayed within 25 seconds of a leader, he would be able to jump them if they made a pit stop and the safety car eventually came. That could have been pretty handy. So what happened again, it took some time. Leclerc did a good job to move into 9 when Gasly made a mistake going into that fast Piratella corner, as then you go down to the Acqua Minerale, obviously named after some of the great places out there in the central Italy. And I felt the race was going well, and we did a really good strategic move, even though it could have backfired greatly. But yeah, we stopped the first. So at the end of lap 11, we should also mention that the medium tires were actually the soft tires last year, so the Pirelli has softened the tire allocation range, and Leclerc basically went for the undercut, and it worked beautifully because at that point he was 9th. But when he emerged, for example, he was ahead of Russell, right, who just got overtaken by Norris, who was running 3rd and 4th. So we were like, wow, we've overtaken the guy who was running pretty much net podium position. And that was just one lap, right? Because basically Leclerc went to the back of the field about 17th place, but very quickly, overtook all of the guys who then stopped, who were ahead of him, especially, for example, guys like Stroll, most notably. It was interesting, right? Because at that moment it looked to be the right strategy. But then, as you maybe have seen from the commentary, the medium, guy runners, then kind of recovered a bit of a pace. So, people were obviously afraid, that there was going to be a lot of the tire degradation. And, somebody like Piastri, for example, also stopped. He tried to undercut Verstappen, but then he found it quite difficult coming through the field, right? Because if you caught up with somebody, let's say, heading into the Villeneuve chicane, which is the second chicane on the circuit, and then if you got stuck behind them, the whole lap, you could really only overtake into the turn 1, right? Even though I, for example, often overtake into Rivazas, even into the hairpin, but that wasn't so much the case with the real F1 cars. So as a result, basically Piastri was out of it because he lost a lot of time, actually getting through the field, and Leclerc's, undercut was so powerful that he was only 3 seconds behind Piastri, which was, absolutely brilliant from the 9th place. I thought it was a masterstroke. That was a really important for Leclerc's race. Hamilton eventually, has made it up to the P6. Then Esteban Ocon had an issue just after Norris, who was running second, stopped when he basically parked, coming out of the Tosa Hairpin, and as a result there was the VSC, the virtual safety car. The only disappointment with the Hamilton's race so far to that point was that he was basically stuck behind the local boy Andrea Kimi Antonelli, who was running also hard tires like him. So Hamilton was unable to get past. Then lots of people jump obviously into the pits to get a free pit stop, including the winning Red Bull. Hamilton has gotten back on the track behind obviously behind Antonelli, also behind Hadjar, also behind Albon. So it was kind of like as you were. Leclerc then also stopped. So Leclerc wasn't obviously happy about it. So Leclerc then went from medium to hard and another hard. It's hard to say, if it was the right, moment to stop. Definitely, if we would have known that there would be a full safety car, then Leclerc definitely wouldn't have stopped. But yeah, as a result, he dropped behind Hamilton. Quickly made his way up, behind Lewis, who then obviously overtook Antonelli. So we were then into 5th. We were basically, we were also able to get ahead of Hadjar. So we were then basically running 5th and 6th, right? And, we had about 20 laps to go, and, about the 8-second gap to Albon, who was 4th, and realistically 4th and 5th place was the best we could have, gotten, which wouldn't be that bad, obviously, considering we started 11 and 12. But we were able to maintain kind of the similar pace, like for example, the leading McLarens and Red Bulls, who definitely had a pace, like Hamilton said, and we could have definitely fight for a victory. But when you're so far behind, yeah, Hamilton was catching Albon by about 4 or 5 tenths a lap at that point, but yeah, you could see Leclerc, has gotten to within 1.5 seconds behind when the local boy, Andrea, Kimi, Antonelli, racing for Mercedes, who knows, might be racing for Ferrari in the future, right, if he's only 18 and keeps on improving at a steady rate. He had an issue again coming out of the Tosa Hairpin, but because he stopped a little bit further up the hill, it wasn't a VSC, so no virtual safety car, it was the SC, the safety car, because there you already going 6th, 7th gear, so I guess recovering the car if there would be any accident would be quite dangerous. And the safety car was great because it would again bunch up the field, but because it happened with about 16, 17 laps to go, you couldn't, for example, put on the fresh set of soft tires because they simply wouldn't last. Surprisingly, that's what I would have if I was racing. Both Hamilton and Leclerc didn't have the mediums, because the mediums would be perfect for that run up to the checkered flag. So most of the guys went for the hard tires, including Hamilton, who stopped again. Leclerc didn't, so he was then in P4. Same like, for example, Piastri, who was in the second place, he didn't stop. Verstappen stopped, Norris stopped, for the fresh set of hard tires. I mean, hard tires, they were mediums last year, but still, not such a great race tire, I would say, for the final 15 laps and so on. Hamilton fell back to 8th, behind obviously his old teammate George Russell, and then it took just a long time with the safety car, and that was a real pity, because I believe we at least could have salvaged the podium if it didn't take like over 5 laps, to clear the stricken Mercedes of Antonelli and to let some of the guys like Behrman, obviously the junior Ferrari driver, to end lap. Because then, by the time we didn't have that many laps, Hamilton took a couple of laps too long, I would say, to overtake Russell, right? And, then he was, pretty much, behind Albon, who was then chasing Leclerc. There was this big fight, obviously, in the final few laps. Leclerc, defended very, very well into the Tamburello chicane, the first turn. I felt like Albon kind of hanging out. He knew he would run out of the space, but that was very important, because with 3 laps to go, Albon, obviously had to go onto the gravel. Hamilton also overtook, so we were 4th and 5th. Next lap, Hamilton overtook, with the DRS, good teamwork there, I would say, and he settled after Piastri and only finished 1.3 seconds really behind. So, without the safety car spending 6 laps, if it was only 3 or 4 laps, definitely, the next lap, because Piastri was struggling just like Leclerc, they had pretty much the similar pace, and Hamilton was catching him about a second a lap, just with a fresh set of tires, hard tires, that were about 20 laps, fresher or younger, we would have gotten into the podium, because we would then have the DRS, we would then basically be able, to overtake, because we did have a really, really good top speed. So, in the end, you could see, with the right strategy, for example, if we started 4th and 5th, if again, undercut was so powerful, like Leclerc, for example, proved, if he would have been able to keep up with the leading trio, for example, or even were running in 3rd and 5th, instead of running, 11, 12, or, 9, 12, respectively, which is obviously, not up to the Ferrari standards, we could have perhaps, undercut even, let's say, the leading Red Bull, definitely with some of the McLarens, and, could have been a memorable victory in Italy. So big miss opportunity, but at least, we've actually, recovered lots of ground. At least we didn't lose touch with the Red Bulls, and especially we caught up the Mercedes. So now we will take a look at the race result, but yeah, overall enjoyable race. I stayed, again glued obviously to the screen, lots of varying strategy, but yeah, just a pity that the qualifying didn't go better, because if this is the last Imola race, it would have been so fantastic to sign off with a memorable, legendary Ferrari victory, like for example I did, or even a Ferrari One-Two, right? That's right. So over here, let me now take a look at how the race finished. So yeah, this is obviously how it finished. So you can see, first up and over here winning. And that's his second win, obviously over here of the season. So bit of a surprise, but again, he's a reigning champion going for it. Also set the fastest lap, but he won't get the 1 point for the fastest lap. But at a certain point, when Leclerc stopped, he had the fastest lap. When Hamilton stopped, had the fastest lap. So we definitely did have a really, really good pace. I was happy about it. You can see then we finished with Norris and Piastri. Interesting fight between the McLarens. What a pity they didn't tangle. Otherwise, we would have finished 2nd and 4th, maybe even 2nd and 3rd. Then we had Lewis Hamilton, his best Grand Prix result of the season. So what a pity didn't get to celebrate with the Tifosis, at least on the podium. But hey, Monza's coming up soon. Albon got very lucky with the safety car that he was, even there, and obviously both virtual safety car and safety car helped him a lot to stay fifth. Sixth, Leclerc, who had to give up obviously the position because the team instructed him as soon as we were under investigation, we knew that we could get penalized. And you can see because the safety car obviously peeled off with about 12 laps to go. If Leclerc has gotten, let's say, a 5-second time penalty, that could have dropped him down to 9th. But as it stands, 7, Russell, Mercedes didn't have a good race, choke up the tires quickly. 8, Sainz, very unlucky under the safety car, so you can see big difference between his teammate Albon. 9 was then Hajar, who ran strongly at the beginning. 10, Tsunoda. I guess that's a disappointment for Tsunoda, isn't it? So here, let's take a look at the Drivers' Championship for the 2025 Formula 1 season. So Oscar Piastri leading with 146 points, maintaining the lead over Lando Norris, 133 points. It's heating up there. And Max Verstappen, the reigning champion, 124 points, keeping up just about, so after Monaco, any of these three could be leading. George Russell, I think that was kind of the first race this season that he probably lost the championship. Mercedes Benz 99 points there for us. Look, we will have to start dominating from really the next race. Otherwise, it will be very difficult. But at least we are up to 5th and 6th place, and soon we can be up to 4th and 5th. As we should really be, especially based on the performances this season. Leclerc is 5th with 61 points. Hamilton 6th with 53 points. Finally overtook the guy who replaced him, or took the baton at Mercedes after he left. Andrea, Kimi, Antonelli, 48 points, obviously not finishing, help Hamilton to get finally into that 6th spot that he deserves, right? The disqualification from China still costing us dearly. 8, Alexander Albon, 40 points. 9, Esteban Ocon, 14 points. Huge difference there. 10 still Lance Stroll, 14 points. 11 Carlos Sainz, quite unlucky in the recent races with the strategy and safety cars. 11 points. 12 obviously Yuki Tsunoda, 10 points. 13 Pierre Gasly, 7 points. 14 Isaac Hadjar, 7 points, probably expected a bit more from this race. 15 Nico Hülkenberg, 6 points, and the last guy obviously who's gotten the point, 16 Oliver Behrman, 6 points. And we can still see Fernando Alonso 5th in qualifying, but still pointless. Same for 18 Liam Lawson, 19 Jack Doohan, 20th is Gabriel Bortoleto, and a rather unspectacular return obviously to Formula 1 for Franco Colapinto, 21st, and dead last with 0 points. So where is that excitement, right, that he brought when he raced at Imola, at Monza, when he joined Formula 1 last year. Let's take a look at the constructor standing for the 2025-2025 season. So McLaren dominating it with 279 points, but second place at the moment belongs to Mercedes, 147 points, but look how close we are. Third is Red Bull Racing, 131 points. Fourth, Scuderia Ferrari, 114 points, and that means that unlike, for example, in the Drivers' Championship, where we for sure will be 5th and 6th after Monaco, over here we could be 2nd in the Constructors' Championship after Monaco, especially if we get a 1, 2 or both cars on the podium and Mercedes really chokes it up. And if we get both cars on a podium with Tsunoda's performances for Red Bull, I'm sure we will get Red Bull at Monaco. 5th is then Williams, 51 points, 6 Haas, 20 points. 7 then Aston Martin, 14 points. 8 Racing Bulls, 10 points. 9 is then Alpine, 7 points, and 10 Kick Sauber with 6 points. So overall, that was a really important recovery because we really did need, obviously over here, as you can see with the driver standings, that definitely played a good role in the drivers. We also did get kind of what we were looking for, but we didn't want Verstappen to be winning, even though, to be honest, because it was Red Bull's 400th race, and he has won 4 in a row, kind of maybe fitting, but I definitely didn't enjoy him winning. But it's good for the title fight, but overall, disappointing weekend, I would say, for Scuderia Ferrari. We definitely expected podiums, fights for the victories. That qualifying pace is a bit of an issue, but overall, it was an enjoyable race, and we will miss you, Imola, but we definitely hope that Imola will still stay on the calendar, maybe as, for example, a rotating race, and you never know what the future might bring, right? Again, if we would have told you, 6 years ago, that Imola would have had, pretty much 5 races, 5 years from now on, you wouldn't have believed it, right? But you can see during the pandemic, really took the opportunity It's a beautiful track, it looks very beautiful there, and you know, the overtaking was not so difficult, so it provided for a great race. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'm sure the Enzo and Dino Ferrari would be proud definitely of the Ferrari comeback, certainly not the qualifying, but hey, you know, we will be lifting that Formula One Grand Prix winner trophy, obviously victory that travels in Louis Vuitton very, very soon, so stay tuned. This was again the first race of the second triple header of the season, round 7 of the 2025 FIA Formula One World Championship. This was Jan Desvalling champion, the Ferrari's biggest fan and Ferrari's fastest driver, giving you this exclusive race reaction. Hope you guys enjoyed, and yeah, now let's enjoy, you know, the achievements of Scuderia Ferrari, such as the SF1000T818 Formula One Racing Simulator, and obviously being the most successful team in the history over here, as it's such a beautiful Sunday evening, still with the blue sky. So we, you know, cannot wait to enjoy more racing and to get back to the winning ways. So, Forza Ferrari! This was Autodromo, Internazionale, Enzo and Dino Ferrari. This was the Imola Grand Ferrari Grand Prix. Forza